right, what's poppin', party pundits? We are back with another poppin' episode of Pop Talk. We are the pundits of pugilism. I'm Professor Nims, joined by Boston Jared and the Casual Rand. And we're going to jump right into this news. So, as you know, today, the WBC, they had their conference, their annual conference, and they basically released their list of mandatory fights. So we're not going to go through all of them, but we're going to kind of touch upon the more titillating topics, as we should say. I want to first start off with the, because he's just kind of the man of the hour right now. We're not going to talk about why, but my man Errol Spence. So he has been mandated to have a fight against your boy, Keith Thurman. It was
Keith sometimes.
Yeah, because I remember was it last week, a couple of weeks ago, that one Bud Crawford, he said something like, I think, you know what I'm saying, that Errol Spence is going to fight Keith Thurman, even though he swore that he wasn't going to fight him. But let's kind of start off from there. So I'm going to start off with the Casual Rand. So the WBC, in my estimation, has been one of the more, when it comes to their ranking and stuff, one of the more kind of faulty and corrupt sanctioning bodies. I thought they paid a lot of favoritism to kind of Mexican-born and Mexican-American fighters. We're not going to kind of get into that. But do you like this mandate of Errol Spence versus Keith Thurman? This is at welterweight, even though Keith has talked about going up to super welterweight or junior middleweight. And then do you see this fight coming to fruition?
I unfortunately I do, especially with Crawford taking the back door and announcing his fight and left Errol Spence without a dance partner. So we knew that he was going to have to defend against one of the sanctioning bodies, the IBF, WBA, WBC. Even though he said he'll never fight Keith Thurman, but I think under his him being a man of his word, I think he would never fight him. But at this point, and now being so late in the game that when Terrence Crawford pulled out, WBC ordered this. He didn't choose this. He didn't duck Crawford just so he can get to Thurman. It was an ordered fight. It's a mandatory. Now, do I agree that Keith Thurman should be the number one?
That's the question.
That's the question. You know what I'm saying? Like you got Ortiz or Boots Ennis that's on there, but it's all questionable. But I think in the WBC eyes, I think that they said that this will be a high profile fight. Keith Thurman does have a fan base, and it's proven.
He does. I mean, he's easily the most high profile out of the
fighters, and I think Spence. I think it's just about principles about him not wanting to fight him. I think Spence wipes him down quick and easy, but I think his principality about this.
Really? Wait. You think Thurman is the most high profile out of all the welterweights?
No. Out of the challengers,
out of the challengers,
out of the contenders, yes.
So, and we're speaking of name somebody that's more high profile than Keith Thurman.
I would say even a guy like Virgil Ortiz, or kind of been, you know, maybe for the wrong reasons right now. But Keith Thurman has. I mean. He just hasn't done much recently, man. This is a what have you done for me lately sport, man. And this guy,
he still is a former unified champion.
He is a former unified champion. I'm glad you brought that up because
he has one loss.
Right. You had mentioned something previously, and you know, I had chimed in, and I have heard this argument. And if you go back and you do your Google searching, Keith Thurman was stripped of this WBC belt for inactivity, if I'm not mistaken. You guys remember?
Yeah, I mean, he doesn't.
Yeah, when he was sitting out.
Right. Do you remember? I'm almost certain that he was granted some kind of emeritus status, if I'm not mistaken.
Was he?
I think so. And I think he was told that when he comes back and he's healthy and he does one fight or whatever, he would be given a shot
you are
He'd
kind
be
of
given a shot at the champion is where I think this is coming from. So in the WBC's defense, they may have laid the groundwork for this. We might not like it as boxing fans, but if promises were made, look, the WBC is keeping those promises. If I'm remembering correctly, it's been so long.
I do recollect that. I'll do a little research, but I will say that even though it's past its sell by date, I think that a Spence versus Thurman is way more tantalizing than a Crawford versus Avenesian. I mean, like, let's be
absolutely.
Yeah, absolutely.
Let's be real.
That's not a question about that.
This is gonna be a good fight. This is gonna be a good fight.
Yeah, and at the same, I mean, I know why they're avoiding it, but wouldn't it be ideal for, right? We keep on talking about Boots and Ortiz, like, why don't y'all fight? And then y'all just kind of determine which one is going to kind of come out of that.
Well, I mean, wouldn't that be a perfect?
Wouldn't that be like a golden boy issue?
You said what?
That's a golden boy issue, right?
I mean, it's not just a golden boy issue; it's a Showtime issue too. I mean,
that's what I'm saying. Golden boy Showtime is.
I mean, Jaron Ennis is ranked third in the WBC. Was he at the convention?
I don't think so. I didn't see a representation.
Well, there you go. There's the answer. There's the answer to your question, right?
Well, yeah, all these niggas, his name has not popped up. I have the list.
I bet you has. That means his people, his representation. He had nobody there to speak on his behalf.
His name is nowhere to be found. But neither is Victor Ortiz, which is a little bit surprising because there's
Virgil Ortiz petitioned for.
Oh yeah, Ortiz is Crawford's mandatory after this Avenesian fight.
You might be too close to your mic, Randy.
That's not WBC. But yeah, but I was speaking just
you just said speaking specifically for WBC, but
yeah, just for the WBC as far as that, they kind of have their favorites in there, but we won't stick too long on there because there's so many other fights that we were talking about. But I wouldn't just Boston Jared. Do you foresee this fight coming in the spring?
Well, that's all going to depend on this network situation here with Al Heyman and PBC. I think they'd like to do it earlier than that, especially if they want to revisit the Crawford fight. So I think the springtime might be a little bit too late. And you got a lot of stuff to contend with in the springtime too, man.
February. So
I think sometime first quarter of next year is when you're going to probably see this fight. Yeah. I'm thinking,
and then I mean, spring is right. It's April, May time.
But you got NBA playoff basketball you got to worry about then. So I don't.
It's not, to me. It's not. It's so many. It's not looking good for that. But
what's not looking good specifically?
Well, I mean, Spence in a Thurman fight, but I mean, Spence is going to fight sometime in the winter, spring.
But think about it. So, like, look at the bigger picture of boxing. So Canelo's out. He's saying that he's going to be out a year.
He talking about not coming back in May.
Oh, if he comes back in May, then yeah, May is shut down. But if he don't fight in May, then all of boxing is open to take over that Cinco de Mayo fight.
Yeah, I mean, what I would do if I was Al and them dudes, I would put Benavidez and Plant on Cinco de Mayo.
Yeah, they were saying that or the Wilder Ruiz.
I would put them. I would stack them.
I thought it was both February. I thought that for the Plant and
that's right.
Benavidez was already set. But I think that might be February. That might be a strategy, right? Because if you do get that fight in February, because one thing that we didn't mention is that the WBC has mandated that the winner of the Plant versus Benavidez fight is going to be the mandatory for Canelo Alvarez. So February, March, April, May, that's right. That gives us time for them if he does come back in May to fight that challenge. And I don't see him fighting Bivol. I mean, I know that he kind of his pride. I think that's just cap. That's just, things that you kind of put out there into the, stratosphere to say that. But who knows what's up with Bivol?
Man,
I heard they were thinking about dropping Bivol.
Who?
Match the zone. They don't want nothing to do with this guy, man. They were pissed at him.
If he keep winning, what's your choice going to be though?
Bring him over to PBC.
If Bivol keep winning, and if he beat better BF, then who going to drop him?
We're a long way from that fight. I mean, Devin Haney was winning. Demetrius Andrade was winning. I mean, there's no interest in this guy.
Yeah, but Andrade,
there's no interest. My man was over there.
Nobody,
I would put a giant asterisk.
Andrade selling more tickets in Providence than Bivol is selling anywhere in the United States. Nobody want to see this dude. My man said they weren't even close to capacity out there last weekend. I mean, there was empty seats.
If you watch it, it was a lot.
They were giving seats away.
It was a lot of empty seats.
He was just like, people were just so uninterested.
He doesn't have that style either. But let's kind of save that.
We got.
We are going to get to that. So let's go down a few weight classes, and we have Isaac Cruz, who's been has a mandatory against Shakur Stevenson for the lightweight. I think that this is probably some of the most exciting news that has come out of this. I'm gonna be honest, because this is probably the most competitive weight class, and it is said that it is agreed upon that the Shakur Stevenson and Isaac Cruz fight will decide the next mandatory for the.
So this is an eliminator.
This is an eliminator.
Yeah. But right. So but listen, we have Devin Haney, who was in talks to fight Vasily Lomachenko, and then so it's right. It's this mini tournament, right? I mean, what could you ask for?
That's how it came about.
What's that?
That's how it came about. So if you watch, like the link I showed you, so during the conference, when like they were going down each division, and when it came down to this division, the lightweight division, they were like, yeah, Haney's gonna fight Lomachenko. Is that set? And then the representative for Haney was like, yo, give me 5 minutes. I'm gonna make sure it's set. And then another representative for Stevenson came up and was like, hey, I want to do a mini tournament. You know what I'm saying? We agree to anybody, any name that y'all put on there. And then they came up with Isaac Cruz, and he was like, yep, we accept it. And so they were like, hey, it's on. I was like, man, that it was so ill the way they put the fight together. And then they were like, yo, this is a fight, and then it'll be an eliminator. But hey, it could all think this out.
Yeah, but the thing is, this fight is probably going to end up on ESPN. I don't see this fight is going to have to go to purse bid, and I don't see Bob Arum.
When you say this fight, give us.
I'm talking about the Shakur and
Isaac Cruz.
And Isaac Cruz. Yeah, you got two rival promotional companies, and unless they can work something out, that fight's going to have to go to purse bid.
Yeah, maybe. What about putting them on the same card?
As an undercard?
Same card as who?
Yeah, as Haney Lomachenko.
But that's an in-house fight. I mean, Haney Lomachenko is an ESPN. That's a top-ranked card, though. And Isaac Cruz.
You just said that Isaac and whatchamacallit is probably going to be on ESPN. But if you do that, then you're going to make it an ESPN pay-per-view.
What I'm saying is that he's going to end up over there because of the result of the purse bid. That's how that fight ends up on ESPN. Now, if they win the purse bid and it does end up on ESPN, you're right. You throw those two together. Now you have a pay-per-view.
This is exciting time. So this brings. Do y'all remember how Oscar De La Hoya was able to fight Bernard Hopkins, right? They had that. Well, actually, now I take that back. It was Felix Trinidad when he fought Bernard Hopkins, right? They had a middleweight tournament, right? It was basically just kind of 4 fighters.
Oh, yeah.
But I mean, those are the things that we need. When anybody who wrestled in high school or went through any kind of Golden Gloves tournaments and stuff that you've been a part of, you remember about being matched up going through, having your seed-ins and stuff. So you can easily identify the number 1 seed, based on who has the belts, the number 2 seed, and WB4, have a small tournament. And then this is something that I think will grab not only the boxing aficionados, but the casuals attention. And this is because to me, this is the best division in boxing is the lightweight division.
You think so, huh? 135, huh?
I think 135 is.
Well,
it used to be 147. They it's too much cap in there, but I think at 135, when you think about Haney, Lomachenko, well, let me think about it, because part of
when you say the best, what do you mean?
As far as from one
top,
from like top to bottom, as far as competitiveness, and then if you match up the fighters, the kind of fights that you would get, and just the quality and skill that you would have each of those fighters.
Well, maybe now because
a lot
154 destroyed itself. It was 154 for the last several years. Was the best, the deepest division in the sport, and they all fought each other and they all beat the hell out of each other. So you might be onto something. I would argue that maybe 175 is close. Okay. But you hit the nail on the head, man. If Shakur Cruz goes to purse bid and that ends up on ESPN, why would you not throw the two of them on that card together and do an ESPN pay-per-view event?
Do a mini tournament. Let's get it popping. Let's get the people excited about boxing again. And this is something that is done before. And I hate to kind of harp upon this, but UFC does this all the time.
Yeah.
Right?
UFC does what?
What they'll do is they'll have the champion, fight the challenger, but then they'll also put in the
like the 3-4.
Yeah, like 3-4 are the contenders, and part of it is because there's so many injuries that are part of it that they could easily have one of the 3-4 step up into that championship bout if somebody has to pull out.
Right.
So boxing, I think we see a lot less of the people pulling out from there, but we don't want to get too granular into. So like, let's just we're gonna tap into a couple of more of the mandatories before we get into the results of last week's fights. So another fight that I want to talk about. Let's jump into the big boys. So we know that Tyson Fury is having basically a waste of a fight against Derek Chisora on December the 3rd, and it's not anything against Derek Chisora. I give him a lot of credit and all that, but at this point in his boxing kind of regimen, Tyson Fury should be fighting the best of the best. But I think
let's stay busy fight.
What's that again?
I said it's a stay busy fight. I mean, Usyk's the one that claimed he got injured.
Yeah.
So that
I will give you that. Okay, yeah, I will.
Right?
Yes, so. I will. So point made. So with that said, so they have Deontay Wilder and Andy Ruiz have been mandated to fight to decide the next mandatory. So from that result, we could get the fourth fight in the Tyson Fury Deontay Wilder, or we could get something that would be interesting, or at least I don't really see this mandatory really coming to fruition, because we know that is going to be eyeing for Usyk after this. But let's start with you, Boston Jared. So first of all, let's give your thoughts on Deontay Wilder and Andy Ruiz fight, and then do you think that the mandatory will be able to sniff the WBC belt after the win?
No, absolutely not. The winner of this fight probably goes on and maybe gets in a position to maybe fight a guy like Joe Joyce maybe, or Anthony Joshua.
I'm not mad about that.
Depending on where those guys are at, if they're able to fight and win respectively. But no, I don't see any way that Deontay Wilder fights Fury for a fourth time. I just don't see it. I just don't see it happening. And I expect Wilder to stop Andy Ruiz brutally somewhere in the first half of that fight.
I do too. And so that's the thing is, what's funny is that I don't think you would have trouble selling the public on a fourth fight with Tyson Fury, particularly as he smashed Robert Helenius, and then if he smashes Anthony Ruiz, everybody's gonna Even
I think Fury will straight up retire and be like, "Yo, I'm really done."
Yeah, he ain't fighting that dude again, man. He ain't fighting that cat again. And as soon as people go to YouTube or whatever, they see that picture of Deontay Wilder laying face down with the drool coming out of his mouth after that third fight, people aren't going to be interested in that fight. I mean, look at what happened with Canelo and Triple G. I mean, they had two competitive fights and they couldn't sell that third fight.
The fight was terrible for one thing. It was garbage.
Yeah, and if you look at,
but those first two fights were excellent fights. I mean, those
no, absolutely, yeah. But I think that's, I mean, to a good point. But so do you think that? So what do you think that the winner? So what you're saying? I think that the WBC will have a very bad kind of public relations problem if they are trying to strip Tyson Fury for not fighting the winner of that, particularly if he's going to do the undisputed with Usyk.
Yeah, I don't think you can strip him from doing undisputed. So
no.
If you look at the landscape, you know what I'm saying, and Fury mentioned it, he only got like maybe two fights left in him. So if you look at it, it's going to be Fury Usyk, and if he unifies, he's gonna give Joshua a fight. I don't care if Joshua loses two more fights by then. That's going to be the biggest.
If Joshua loses his next fight, that fight's done. I think.
I don't think. Look, he fighting Chisora right now.
Well, that's a stay busy fight, though, and you know that.
I'm just saying though, like for the Pride of UK, they're going to make that fight. You know what I'm saying?
I think if Joshua loses his next fight.
Joshua ain't fighting anybody. I think Joshua is going to he's going to have a tune-up fight, and then he's going to set himself up for this Tyson Fury fight. But I think I think Fury is fighting Chisora next, then the Usyk, and then he's going to fight Joshua. I think those are the three fights, and then he's out of there. So there's nobody going to force him to do anything. So the best thing that like Boston said, that Wilder's going to wax Ruiz, and then after that he might have to fight a Dillian White or Joe Joyce. You know what I'm saying? In the meantime, before he get a shot at however they're going to break these belts up, or if Usyk wins.
A lot that can happen. You talk about almost 18. That's almost 18 months from now. You know, there's a lot that can happen. But
one thing I know, it ain't gonna be no Wilder Fury 4.
Definitely not. That shit definitely not gonna happen.
That's definitely not gonna happen.
Definitely not gonna happen. So,
I think. I mean, because somebody who's lost 2 knockouts, even though, I mean, it would be surprised. I don't think that is good for boxing. I just wouldn't be surprised just with how Tyson Fury is. He kind of marches to the beat of his own drum. But I do agree with the pundits that I don't think that it would be a good look. But, if he goes and smashes and pulverizes, which I do see him ending the fight against Andy Ruiz violently. I mean, where does he go from here?
Where does who go? Where does who go?
Deontay Wilder.
Like I said, I mean, I think a Joe Joyce fight in the UK. We've talked about this on the show before. I think Wilder, if he wants to fight for whatever he wants to fight for another 2 years, maybe, he needs to go to the UK and fight. He needs to go over there, experience that, and build his cachet over there. I think a fight with Joe Joyce.
But he's going over there.
He a bigger name than Joyce. Why
he's gonna have that, but he's gonna have this elephant in the room that is just gonna be out there like, okay, you're fighting Joyce, you're fighting Joshua, but you know that there's this Tyson Fury guy who literally knocked you out twice.
Yeah, he fought him 3 times and he lost arguably all 3 times. Dude.
Yeah,
I think that chapter
ain't never gonna happen.
That chapter is closed. And I don't think
there's no benefit. There's no benefit for Fury.
A 4th time.
No, it's definitely no benefit for Fury. Like for Fury, like I don't think that he would do the fight. I agree with that. But at the same time, you think that Deontay Wilder will go over to England to fight Joe Joyce, who is the juggernaut, for no belt. They're not. What belt are they fighting for?
They wouldn't be fighting for any belt. They fight for a ton of money and popularity. I mean, these guys, those guys can sell out the O2 over there, and that's not something that Deontay Wilder has ever experienced. If you dangle the right check in front of him, I think he takes that fight in a heartbeat.
Yeah,
in a heartbeat. Especially if there are network issues over there, and he's still PBC affiliated, and they ain't got no network. You know,
I wouldn't be mad at that, right?
Speculating.
So he doesn't have to. Yeah, he doesn't have to revisit the nightmare of Tyson Fury, and he can get a little bit of get back by like knocking out all of the other English men that are not named Tyson Fury. So, all right.
Now that is a tough. It can be a challenging fight to make because of Joe Joyce, who is aligned with. I believe Joe Joyce is a Frank Warren Queensberry boxer.
Yeah.
So you know how that shit goes. So anyway, go ahead.
I think it can be made. We'll see though. So
if anybody can tell Al what's going to happen and what he's going to do, and Al's not going to say shit, is Deontay motherfucking Wilder. Is one of the few guys over there that can be like, Al, this is what we're going to do, make it happen. And Al's not going to sit there and try to, Deontay. If anyone can do it, Wilder is the guy that can do it.
All right. So let's kind of move on from the WBC. We want to dive into last week's fights. And we want to start off with what I thought was a star-making performance for David Morrell against Businulai. But it's also on a kind of on a somber note. From last that we heard, Yuri Businulai was still currently in a coma, right? So this was a medically induced coma. And we don't, the only reason that we're starting off by saying that because we don't want to kind of overlook that. We know that every time a boxer steps into that squared circle, they are putting their life at risk. And this is only getting attention because it was a pretty high profile fight on Showtime. So we want to send our thoughts out and prayers to that. But with that said, I was actually really impressed with Morrell. And this is somebody who I thought was just was more of a kind of just pretty veneer. But once you kind of got down to the actual materials and substance of it, that really didn't have the kind of ingredients that needed to be a superstar. But I saw some things in this fight, and he actually kind of convinced me that he could be a rising star at this is at 168 pounds, right?
168 pounds, man.
At super middleweight right now. So there was a trinket that he has. I don't want to speak too much onto it because from my understanding, Canelo Alvarez was the undisputed champion at this weight class. But we'll speak because Boston, you've been throwing this guy up and just saying you've been championing him for a minute. So kind of tell us, like, what did you think about this performance, and then what do you see him going on from here?
I thought it was a tremendous performance, and look, and I had said this in the previous show. This was going to be a huge step up for him. I mean, this was going to be a huge step up for him. And Yerbo Sinulai, he came to win that fight. I mean, he was not going there just to collect a check, man. Morrell is the goods, man. He can do every single thing you could possibly want inside of a boxing ring. The one thing that concerned me, and I bring it up because he has been calling out David Benavidez for quite some time. He allowed Yerbo Sinulai to push him back in the middle rounds of that fight. I think he started off by opting to fight off of his back foot at first to try to walk him into a shot because he had a tough time landing shots from medium and close range. He got on his back foot, but when he got on his back foot, Yerbo Sinulai didn't let him get back onto his front foot. He looked a little bit uncomfortable at times being pressed by Yerbo Sinulai, despite some of the bravado and the antics you saw him smiling and showboating. I really think that Yerbo Sinulai did a good job of pressing him at times. And if you're in there against a guy like David Benavidez, you cannot allow him to get moving downhill and get on his front foot because Benavidez is going to be throwing a lot more punches, and those are rounds he's going to be able to win if he's on his front foot. Now, the one thing I will caveat that by saying is that David Benavidez is not as defensively responsible as Yerbo Sinulai is. Yerbo Sinulai showed us he showed us a lot of tools in that, and I really want to give him the credit he's due. I think that Yerbo Sinulai, if he comes back, takes a year off, comes back healthy, to me, he's a top 4, top 5 guy in that division. And he got washed. He got washed by Morrell. But moving forward, I was really hoping that he would get the shot at David Benavidez. Ronnie Shields was on another YouTube podcast last week and hinted pretty strongly that fight was in fact going to be next. And I was surprised when the Casual Rand sent that text out saying that the Plant Benavidez fight had been made. I don't know where he goes from here. It's slim pickings out there at 168 pounds on the PBC side. The one name that is out there is Demetrius Andrade.
I knew you was going to say
it. If you are Al Heyman and you still have got and you've still got to stick up your ass for Demetrius Andrade, and you want to stick it to him, you throw him in there with this against this guy. You want to fight? You ain't been fighting Demetrius. You want to fight? Okay, we got to fight for you. Come here and fight David Morrell off of a year of inactivity, and that's gonna be a tough fight for Demetrius. I don't think skill wise it's as bad, but the physicality of Morrell is going to be a lot at that weight. So
a young guy. He's only 24 years old.
Only 24 years old. He's fresh. The other guy
got less than 10 fights.
He's 8-0 with 7 knockouts.
Yep, and fighting undefeated fighters and fighting 12-round fights with less than 10 fights. So compare and contrast that to your favorite prospect / contender, i.e. Jerome Boots Ennis, who wasn't fighting 12 rounders till his like 30th fight or something like that.
In his third fight, he fought a 12-round fight.
12-rounder against an undefeated fighter. So
to me, man, like when you say where do you go next, I think his success is going to be his sort of like his failure, not failure, but like his roadblock. Like, because right now he's the regular WBA champion.
He's got the Tank Davis belt. Yeah.
So with that, he's not a mandatory for any of the sanctioning bodies. And Canelo's not going to fight him. So your question was right. Where do we go? Because he can't force mandatory on anybody. So and then California fight
at least he's not Mexican. So right.
Canelo. He is not Mexican, but now,
so Canelo can't make that excuse.
Yeah.
If Canelo vacates or gets stripped, and I suspect he will, this will be the first belt that he drops, is probably this one. Now Morrell gets elevated. And now I think you're in a better position. You're going to have guys potentially wanting to fight you, although I don't see many guys in this division dying to fight him. So maybe that's what it is. Maybe an Uzcategui fight.
Hey, what about that Skull? You remember?
Well, there's Willie School.
Willie
School who's out there, and I'm sure that those two guys both being around the same age. How old is School, Randy? You ever pulled up?
Nah.
School, he's listed at like 28, so add 2 or 3 years. Maybe he's 31. These guys might know each other pretty well. Maybe that I'm there for that fight.
He's 30.
I'm there for that. He's 30.
Wow, he's 30. Wow.
School is 30, so he's probably more like 33 or some shit like that. 34.
6 foot.
I'm there for that fight. I'm there for that Willie School fight. But that's high risk, low reward for Morrell. School is out there in promotional purgatory. I don't know who he signed to, what network he fights on, and I don't know that.
So Boston, you gave a lot of accolades to Ados, Busino Live.
Yeah,
but what do you think? We do. He got stopped in the last round, and he was competitive throughout. But was there anything that you would have liked seen different from his corner?
Yeah. I think that after that first knockdown, they should have stopped the fight. He's too far down on points at that juncture. There's no point in because what ended up happening, he takes 2 massive shots right after that. And those 2 big shots could have been the difference between him sitting with a massive headache right now, but still able to eat food and play with his kids and talk to his loved ones and a medically induced coma. I'm not a doctor. That's just my opinion. I think, yes, that fight should have been stopped. If it were me, I'm stopping that fight after the 9th. Because he's not hurt. He's not hurting Morrell, maybe even earlier, because you're too far down on points. I don't think that Yerbosino Live I don't think he won maybe a round going through the 7th, going into the 8th. So you need a knockout at that point. And there was nothing that led me to believe that Yerbosino Live was going to be able to knock this kid out. And he's continually taking big, hard shots. Morrell is a big, strong kid at that weight. I mean, he is a natural 168 pounds. I mean, he was hitting him with some hellacious shots. So, yes, I think that fight should have been stopped a lot sooner. Yeah, that's what I would.
How much responsibility you give on the refs or the doctor, ringside doctor?
I think you divide up that responsibility evenly. I think the doctor is looking at the ref. Tony Weeks was the ref, if I'm not mistaken, and Weeks is a pretty seasoned guy. And Yerbosino Live is fighting back. He's fighting back.
Yeah, he had some moments.
He has some moments, right? So if you're Weeks, when do you maybe you go talk to the corner and say, I just don't know.
Yeah, like I don't know. So I'm seeing, like,
so I mean, Weeks, I believe, called the doctor in at one point during that fight, if I'm not mistaken. I believe he called the doctor in. So I take that back. I don't know about evenly responsible. I think the responsibility lies primarily on the corner in that scenario. I take that back. I don't want to put any responsibility on a guy like Weeks or the doctor. That's the corner.
I think
it's the corner because the corner knows that fighter.
I would agree with that.
Yeah, the corner knows that fighter and knows that he's being responsive to the things that you're telling him, and like his whole demeanor. Like he's been in that corner and you've been training with him for months at this point, so you know if he's like he don't have anything else to give you, and he's getting pounded. So yeah, it is the responsibility of that corner to throw that towel in or let him. I mean, but this whole like mantra of like dying on your shield, you know what I'm saying? We didn't get away from that. You know what I'm saying? Like Wilder used to say, man, I want to die on my shield, and he got mad when his corner threw in the towel. But hey, I'd rather live and fight another day, bro.
Yeah, then he was crying at the press conference after the Helenius fight, talking about fighters taking too much punishment and all that. So yeah, he had a come to Jesus moment. Somebody said something to him, or maybe he came to that realization all on his own, man. It's it was tough, man, because it was such a good fight. I
thought it was a good fight. I thought it was a perfect test for David Morrell at this point. And he's kind of sold me on the good. I think that just with his boxing style, it just got, like I say, he goes for the knockout. He's shown what he's trying to, because there was something that Ados talked about, that Cubans are great amateur fighters, but you don't find too many good pro fighters. And
that's not true. I think he was just talking shit.
But if you think about it, I mean, there's kind of two standout Cuban fighters who have kind of done that. I'm talking about since like the 90s going forward or whatnot, but they've it's been more than, like I'm talking about Urelkis Gamboa. I wasn't including him in there, but there had
Lara was a
Lara, and then so it was Cap, right? You know what I'm saying? If you kind of dig a little bit deeper on there, but I think that when we think about stars, because we thought that Urelkis Gamboa was going to be that next star.
Oh, he was that star.
He
was that star, but he got ducked. Guys like Mikey Garcia and Juan Manuel Lopez, with the help of Bob Arum, ducked Urelkis Gamboa. And now everybody wants to fight Urelkis Gamboa. All these dudes you see hopping in there, and this is not for you guys, but for our audience out there, the younger guys who don't remember prime Urelkis Gamboa, I strongly recommend you go back and you watch prime Urelkis Gamboa. I think
he was the shit until whoever talked to him in the fight in Terrence Crawford.
Right.
Whoever did that ruined that man's career.
That was a bad decision.
Yeah, I mean, but he had no other action. He was very, very inactive. Remember, because Gamboa, well, to be fair, remember Gamboa was signed to 50 Cent.
Yep.
If y'all remember correctly.
That was a terrible decision. But remember, Bob Arum had him and Juan Manuel Lopez at the same time. And what he kept on saying, I'm going to let it marinate. And they were in the same weight class. They were fighting on the same card, but then Juan Manuel Lopez got exposed out there, but he never got a chance to fight him and do that. But Bob Arum had both of them.
He did, and Bob Arum came out and has recently admitted in candid interviews, I don't know if it's his old age or what, but he was protecting Juanma from Urelkis Gamboa.
Jeez, come on.
He admitted it. But that Universal lie, that's a little bit of gamesmanship, because if I'm David Morrell, I'm saying the same thing about those Kazakh fighters, right? Y'all got one dude, right? They got Gennady Golovkin, and they got this guy Janbek, who just was given a belt, is an email champ, right? Way more Cuban champions than there have been Kazakh world champions, and the legacy continues, man. And you've got this kid Robesi Ramirez at 126, who is probably going to be the next Cuban champion.
Yeah, and a lot of times, because earlier it was a lot of the Cuban fighters had to defect and come over. And a lot of times they were a lot older in age. You know, they probably, you know, took off about 4 years, stuff like that, birth certificate. So that's something that we did have to consider. So
that's right. And Morrell defected at the age of what, 21?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's bad news for the rest of these guys.
So we're going to stick with the fights from this weekend and talk about your man Bivol, who had a pretty dominating performance against Zurdo over this weekend. And it was, it was, to me, at first I saw some kind of physical challenges that he definitely had to overcome with Zurdo. But at some point, and I'm gonna just be honest, it really kind of devolved into a competitive kind of sparring match a little bit. Like, I don't want to be too critical because Bivol did what he needed to do, and I mean he shows supreme skill in taking apart Zurdo, but at the same time, I don't think that this was a fight that would capture the public's attention, right? So if I was inviting somebody over and I'm like, yo, this is one of the best fighters in the world. This is the one of the Canelo conquerors. And I showed him that fight, I'll probably be waking him up around the 11th round, like, hey, you know, it's about.
Yeah, they'll be looking at their phone all night, just like half the people in that stadium were looking at their phones. They showed a close-up of Eddie Hearn during that fight.
And
Eddie Hearn is in there. Yeah, he's a busy guy. You know, I'm sure he's sitting there responding to text messages legitimately. But again, you know, people
it could have been between rounds, right? So there's a lot of ways you can frame stuff.
It may have been. Look, man, I stand by what I said last week. They had no interest, and they wanted, the people at the Zone, people at Matchroom, based on what I was told, they did not want Dimitri Bivol leaving there with that belt. Unfortunately for the people at the Zone, Zurdo is a bum ass nigga. Let me take that back. I don't want to call him a bum ass nigga. He
stepped into that ring. He
is an average. You're right.
That's a whole different problem. That's the problem that I have with Golden Boy itself. They protect their fighters so much that this Ramirez, what was his record?
It was 44
51 and 0, 49 and 0.
It was 44 and 0 with 30 KO.
Yeah,
but so what they said, yeah, go ahead.
I mean, he's like you said, he's a decent fighter. So you go down the line, Munguia, a decent fighter, he's at what, 31, 32 and 0. So I mean, it's just the whole Golden Boy.
Munguia's got more fights than that, doesn't he?
Whatever.
I want to answer. So what they said,
he's just as bad as Ramirez.
Yeah, how many fights? But and let's put on our objective lens and not just kind of have this kind of or kind of being disappointed. And we don't want to kind of juxtapose this fight against David Morrell, who looked like a world beater. But should Bivol be in our top 10 pound for pound?
Oh man, should Bivol be in the top 10?
A lot of people are putting them in there.
That's what I'm saying. But is that really unfair?
Yes, it's unfair for the
how many rounds has he lost?
So there's 3 unified champions that's in the top 10, right?
Yeah, or multiple division.
And then you have Spence with 3 belts. You got Better BF with 3 belts.
Yeah,
that's 5 right there.
You've got Ahmed Aliev and Cool Boy Steph with 2 belts apiece in that division.
No,
you've got Inoue with about to be undisputed.
Yeah, that eliminates him right there. I mean, he's a good young fighter with 1 belt that beat a undersized lower weight class Canelo. So he
pretty much dominated him.
Well, he did what he was supposed to against a smaller champion.
Agreed.
So no, I'm not putting them in. I'm not putting them in the top 10 because you beat Canelo.
Yeah, I agree with Randy, and for that reason and the other reasons we just listed, there are other guys in that weight class that are much more deserving of that top 10 spot. Based off of accolades and accomplishments, Bivol might be just as skilled as some of those guys in that top 10. I just don't know that he's got the accolades and accomplishments to bump any of those guys, especially the unified champs and the multiple division champs.
It's funny you talk about. He does have. So it was funny because I think that I said that I like his feet. Right. I thought that he had, the kind of quick. I mean,
great feet.
You know what I'm saying? Yeah, he has good feet in there. But I remember you had talked about, Coach talked about, him throwing an uppercut. And you said something to the effect that I've never seen him throw an uppercut. I was watching throughout the fight. He threw a left uppercut. I saw one. And I watched pretty much every minute of every round. He never threw a right uppercut. Which there are effective ways to get that in against a southpaw in there, but there are some. It's a lot of good things, a lot of good quality that he had, but there, he does have some limits when it comes to his style. Right? He's a
1-2 guy. Yeah, he's a 1-1-1-2, and when he gets you on the ropes or he backs you up, he kind of throws these wild hooks when he gets guys against, because those 1-2s, those piston jabs, those 1-2s, and guys will shell up, and he'll throw these kind of really, really kind of sloppy, kind of arm punch hooks to get around the guard. But he is, he's a guy much like Edeslandi Lara, who gets the most out of two punches that I've seen. Lara's another guy who didn't start throwing other punches until later in his career, like post Jared Hurd almost. Lara was a 1-1-2, 1-1-2 type of guy. Similar to Bivol, a guy with excellent feet and a guy with excellent understanding of timing, distance, and range control. You can call it basic if you want, but it's extremely effective. Extremely, extremely effective. And
we want to, right, let's use that to kind of transition. We're going to come back to the WBC and their mandatories. We didn't kind of want to, because they've done it throughout each of the weight divisions, but we want to talk about the light heavyweight division, which directly impacts the results of the Bivol versus Zurdo. So the champion, who altered Beterbiev, who has the IBF, the WBC, and the WBO titles. He is somebody that Bivol has expressed that he wants to fight, and I think that he's sincere in wanting to do this. I just don't necessarily know if it's going to happen. But with that said, he is Artur Beterbiev is mandated for his WBO against Anthony Yarde. And so they have not even given who I think that Bivol holds what belt does he hold? The WBA?
Bivol's got the WBA belt.
Yeah.
Is it BO or BA?
BA, because WBO, the mandatory is Anthony Yarde. So, but Caleb Smith has been designated as a mandatory challenger and will face presumably the winner of the Beterbiev Yarde winner at that point. I'm not necessarily
if they can't make undisputed
with that. Yeah, because I think that there is a certain allowance that you get if you are going to fight for undisputed, that you can push off your mandatory for one of those belts in there. I'm not interested in seeing an Beterbiev versus Caleb Smith fight. This is presuming that he gets past Yarde, which I think that he will. I think that he'll knock him out around the 5th or 6th round.
Yeah.
Oh, I think that fight's a lot tougher than people are expecting.
Really?
I got Better BF winning, but that's gonna be. I don't think it goes 12, but that's gonna be a tough fight for Better.
Yeah, I was thinking maybe like 10, but I still had Better BF knocking them out.
I mean, Yard is a massive 175er. I mean, Yard looks like a cruiserweight come fight night sometimes. I mean, he's a big guy. I don't think Better BF is going to be able to come forward and steamroll him, but we don't want to go too far down that rabbit hole. Sorry, Cam. This is what you were saying.
Yeah,
no, I mean, I just wanted to kind of go up upon that point, but so do you foresee a unification bout in right? We probably won't get to see this until the summer, right? Because Better BF is going to fight Yarde at the first of the year.
Yeah,
there seems to be a lot of kind of barriers to that fight for some reason.
There is, man, and look, I brought this up in the last show when it came to the commodity, Bivol's value as a boxing commodity. Bivol's Russian. Better BF is also Russian. He's lived in Canada for a very, very long time, and Top Rank is able to spin that as best they can. Better BF is also an English speaker.
So was Bivol. He spoke, right?
Not nearly. Better BF is a much better English speaker, and he believe he speaks French. Point is, Better BF can fake the funk, right?
Yeah.
You may be able to do that fight in Montreal next spring, right? In Canada, you got the adopted Canadian son against the guy who lives in California, right? It is an undisputed fight. What you don't want is the geopolitical stuff to come in when you've got two Russians. The WBC, and we didn't touch on this, the WBC dropped all Russian and Belarusian fighters from their rankings over this weekend, this past week.
I didn't even know that.
Really? Yeah, and I don't take my word for it, listeners. Go back and check. If you don't think that real world geopolitics plays a factor in the world of boxing, it does. And before Russia invaded Ukraine, it would have been a no-brainer to have this fight in Russia, in Moscow. The Russians will be throwing around big bucks to have an undisputed fight in some place like Moscow or someplace. I mean, it would have been big, but given the politics.
But even before this weekend, I even like a place because there is because a lot of the Kazakhstan and other fighters there, they have the Muslim religion. So a lot of times they have a big following in the Abu Dhabi and in the Emirates in that area. But the reason I hesitate on that is because there was a lot of empty seats for this.
Yeah. And they had how many Arab fighters? I mean, they had Galal Yafai was on there, his brother, whoever Yafai. They had a ton of Arab fighters on that card. And people just were not interested. People will show up for Better BF in Montreal.
Yeah.
Better Montreal, Canada, because Canadians very quietly, that's a big fight country. Montreal, that's a fight town. It's the home of you've had guys like Adonis Stevenson, Jean Pascal, and the MMA guy whose name I can't remember, all hail from Montreal. It's a fight town. They'll come out for that. And Better BF has fought there. I believe he beat the Earth, Wind, and Fire out of Marcus Brown in Montreal.
Are you talking about the GSP as far as the
George St. Pierre? I think George St. Pierre also from Montreal. So it's a fight town. They'll come out for that fight.
So one quick thing I just want to do because I don't know how, and this just came out, but the WBC removes Russian and Belarusian fighters from rankings and will not sanction their fights. Wow.
Yeah. Right.
When did that come out?
This was
today.
Yeah, like 9 hours ago. Wow.
Yeah.
So there you go. So going back to your original question, Cam, the fight can get made as far as the boxing politics go because of Bivol has some sort of interesting relationship with Matchroom and DAZN. He's not really a Matchroom fighter. It's just they're gonna have to massage this one. They're gonna really have to massage this one. And they're gonna probably have to do this shit in Canada. And I wonder how the Canadian government is gonna look at this. But again, Better BF is a Canadian citizen now. So
yeah. So
but it's your belief that this unification never happens.
No, I don't know is the answer to the question. I really just don't know. If the Russians are out there, they're discovering mass graves and the Russians are being investigated for war crimes this time next year. I don't know that the Mickey Mouse Club, aka ESPN, who Better BF is signed to, I don't know that they really. I just don't know, Randy. I just don't know. You know how that shit goes. And it's somebody at CNN or somebody got two Russian fighters making a ton of money here fighting for undisputed. I just don't know. I hope that it does because these guys don't have anything to do with the decisions.
Yeah, I mean it's hard. I mean,
so I hope that it happens. I would love
trying
to
to make these are athletes trying to make a living and trying to make a legacy, and they don't seem very political at all. They've strayed away from that. They've both done a good job in trying to learn English, and Bivol, he actually did his interview in English. I think that Better BF probably is a little bit more versed in there, but I was surprised that Bivol didn't have a translator up there. But let's we're not going to spend too much time on it, but we're going to spend the last few minutes kind of revisiting this Crawford Spence.
Oh God.
Saga. I just want to be fair because this is also educating me. All right. So apparently
we're not going to talk about this video, are we?
Well, no, we're not going to talk about the video, but we're going to talk about the tweets. All right. So I'm going to let the casual Rand give a little bit of a synopsis in there. And if you want to, you can share your screen, but
I don't have it on my screen on that.
I believe Mike Benson or Coppinger or one of these guys collected all the tweets.
Yeah, it's up there. So I just want to go out there and say that first off, this was a medium that acceptable as communication. So like, most people are gonna be like, well, he just tweeted. It's the same as. I see it the same as Crawford going on live and reading off a cue card. I respect the way Spence did it because he was pretty much texting or tweeting straight to Terrence Crawford. It was a conversation between the two men. It wasn't?
Oh, no, it was. It was. I just know that Errol Spence used words in those tweets that I don't think he ever used in his life.
Exactly. and to me,
and shit like
to me, that proves his point that what he was saying is more credible than what Crawford was saying. Especially when he tells him, he was like, yo, didn't your team get the contract on August 24th? And then, you know what I'm saying? Like, and Crawford never like refuted that he didn't get it. He even goes on to say, like, Crawford even goes on to say that, yeah, y'all try to pull a fast one. That's why my team revised it. But my thing is, like, when you look at it and you look at how the conversations over the last 2 months, the little bits of information that the public was getting, it lines up more with what Spence was saying than what Crawford was saying. Because when Spence came back and was like, yeah, you try to pull a fast one, so we sent it back. That was the same time that the head of Showtime, was Espinoza, was saying that, yeah, we sent the contract, their team had some issues and sent it back. And then we didn't hear anything from them after that. So that's when Spence says in the tweet, he was like, yeah, your team did send it back, but those was the same 3 issues. That the 3 issues that you had was the 3 things that was in the original contract. So you was just fucking stalling. You sent it back, stalling, dragging your feet. And then, like, only thing that Terrence Crawford ever, like, he went down the whole thing. He said, I gave you the contract on August 24th. In the contract. So when we fought, like, every time that us, the pundits, had this conversation, it was about the contract and no guarantee and then the back end and not having access to the number. Errol Spence broke that shit down, and like you said, he used language that he would probably never use. He says the draft included specific provisions that required that both of us would receive a complete and full written detailed accounting showing all pay-per-view sales and event and then status of the net revenues received and all event expenses incurred and paid. He goes down the line saying that we gave you everything that you asked for. And you know what I'm saying? And then so they go back and forth. Only thing that Crawford, his rebuttal through the whole thread was, you weren't at the table, so you're not your own man, and y'all was slow rolling the contract. So Errol comes back and says, I didn't need to be at the table. My team, who represents me, gave me everything I wanted. I got everything I wanted. The negotiation was because for you to get what you want. And then even with the $50 million, like when you bring up the $50 million, he was like, hold on. He said, all money, not good money. I asked him where the 50 million was coming from and who was over the hedge fund putting the money up, and he couldn't tell me. I think he said that Crawford just said, I think we all just need to meet in person. He never told us, the public, when he was explaining it, that who was the head of the hedge fund or where the money was coming from. And he didn't even tell the other fighter who the money was coming from. So even with that, like what me and you argued about last week, Jared, PBC put on a $50 million fight this year. So why would I let him go somewhere else for a $50 million fight when they doing $50 million fights in-house? So to me, this whole thread like just shuts down all of Terrence Crawford's argument. And then you can always say that he said, she said, he said this and he said another, but there was another
exactly
person.
What this all is now.
But there's a third person that the actual, not the promoter, but the what you call ESPN, the distributor.
Yeah, I'm not sure what you asked.
That supports everything that was said in public with the contract. So to me, this is over, man. It just shows that Terrence slow rolled it and then chose to go a different route.
Yeah, I've heard these arguments. I've had to listen to these arguments now on YouTube for the last few weeks now, and it's just like Cam said, and you said it, Randy. This is all. It's become a he said, she said, and we as fans have no way of verifying if any of this shit is true. We just have no way.
That's true, but you know what I'm saying. To me,
it's like look, hey, if Spence's team gave him all that shit in a timely manner, then Crawford got some explaining to do. But we have no idea. He dared Crawford to post. To be clear for our viewers, wasn't a contract. It was a term sheet. The contract is the finished product. The term sheet is what gets revised and revised and revised into a contract. So there was never ever a contract. There was a term sheet.
It was a draft. His word said, "Did you get a draft contract on August 24th?"
Right, draft contract.
That sounds suspect. Like it's not a contract, but it's like a draft. But at the same time, it is just. I mean, it gives us some content to kind of argue about and all that, but what it comes down to, the fight is not getting made.
Right. Exactly.
It seems like
it's sad. It's sad because I just think that it's about legacy and blocking legacy. I think that Crawford is perfectly happy for this fight to happen at 154 next year.
Really?
Oh yeah, I wouldn't want to. I think Spence has a better chance of winning at 154.
That's what I'm saying. Like Spence seems like he has to drain himself more to get to 147.
Yeah.
So like,
yeah.
But that was always been the narrative. But you know what I'm saying? Like after the crash, I honestly believe he changed his life, and he's been living that life where he can stay at 147 until he don't want to, but I think he's living a life that he can stay at 147 to accomplish the goal. But I think Crawford knows this, and he was like, man, I can keep doing this, and fuck him, and I'll see him at 154 when it's not for no legacy. It's not for a unification. It's just for, hey, we fighting at 154 now.
Yeah. The other elephant in the room with all this, with these negotiations, was the what stood out to me was the fact that there was no guaranteed money. Now, Spence came out and said that he wasn't guaranteed money either, which, okay, if you say so, but Crawford definitely wasn't guaranteed.
But dude, so you know the Wilder Fury 2 that generated one of the most money in boxing. You know how much they were guaranteed?
A lot.
$5 million a piece.
Yeah, but that's 100% more than what Crawford was guaranteed.
Yeah, but you just
what Spence was guaranteed.
I'm just saying that they knew that they were making their money, but their guarantee was $5 million. So this one was no guarantee, but they was going to make that the money. Spence said, "Yo, I knew what I was supposed to be. I'm guaranteed to get, and I'm happy with that." That's why he didn't jump out the box when everybody was like, "Oh, $50 million, 50." He was like, "Man, I know what I know what I signed the contract, and I know what I'm getting. That $50 million is to help you out, not me." That's exactly what he said.
So you think Errol Spence is getting somewhere close to $50 million for this fight? You think he's getting anywhere close? You think he gets close to $25 million for this fight?
Look,
does that match up with anything he's gotten before? He's not going to get.
I'm telling you, I don't know what. I'm just telling you what he told. He told Terrence Crawford.
I get that.
He told Terrence Crawford that $50 million won't for him. That was for you. That was for Crawford.
Well, it wasn't 50 mil for Crawford. It was 25.
No, he was saying the split, the 25-25. That was for Crawford's benefit, but not for him. So he was happy.
Yeah, that makes zero sense.
If Spence got 10 million and was happy with that 10 million, then that other money it was for Crawford, not him. That's what he said.
I think to Boston's point, like it looks like Errol wasn't writing some of this stuff, right?
No,
which is fine.
He was writing what was in the contract when it.
I'm talking about the tweet, right? So
he was copying and pasting what Tim Smith or Al Heyman was sending them, because you made a comment about Crawford reading cue cards. It was the same shit. Errol Spence
it has one point. It says that
I say he was copying what was in the contract.
He was copying and pasting what somebody else told him to say.
Yeah, we've heard him do it, but he has like the draft included specific provisions that required both of us would require
that was out of the contract.
Detailed accounting showing all pay-per-view sales of the event, and then the status of the net revenues receiving all events incurred and paid in there. But I think, but what I was saying is that to that point is that he's not really kind of speaking, what I'm saying, from necessarily this kind of knowledge that he has about the contract, because he said himself that, listen, I have a team around me. I've surrounded myself with a team. I trust my team. And then I'm going to kind of go through that. And then Terrence Crawford is like, I'm trying to, be my own man and be my own team, and then kind of go from there.
Yeah, how we know all them damn details if he wasn't even part of the negotiation and shit, man? He had somebody sending him texts and he was copying and pasting.
All what really talking about that what was inside the contract.
You said what?
He's just telling you what was inside the contract.
And that's fair. Like I said before, hey, if Crawford got that shit, got a term sheet that had met his demands in August, I said Crawford's got some explaining to do.
He does.
Even
I said that earlier. We had talked on the phone, me and the Kadri ran and stuff, and that if those things that those issues of transparency, and then if he was able to kind of get an insight into all of those expenses and all of this, then Terrence does have some explaining to do. But we are all left holding this.
Yeah, we all left holding
bag.
Right. I mean, that explanation could be as simple as no guaranteed money, and then the fans are gonna be like, "Oh, fuck you," or
that makes sense. You know what I'm saying? I can respect that, but if he say that, then I can respect that. And then even Spence said that he was like, "Yo, if you wanted to go get that bag with that 10 million, I can respect that too. But don't just say, you know what I'm saying, we ducking you or whatever the whole thing was. You know what I'm saying? The whole narrative was like, oh, Spence ducking. Oh, no, Crawford ducking. No, just say, hey, they didn't offer guaranteed money, and now I got a $10 million purse right here guaranteed. I can come back around and get to you. And then that would have been it. I just said, the communication, and now they're saying that let's have this next round of negotiation be
public.
Yeah,
that ain't gonna happen.
Yeah, that ain't gonna happen.
Yeah, that ain't gonna happen. Yeah, so we'll see. Like Cam said, the fans we still left without a fight. Unfortunately, I mean we Thurman Spence is not a bad fight.
It's not. It's just frustrating. You know what I'm saying? Because now if they move up, like, you know what I'm saying, I don't see where Crawford's going with this. It seemed like he didn't want to fight the young lions, but after Spence move up, there ain't nothing but the young lions left. And then if he move up to 154, he's gonna have the same problem that he had at 147, seeing that most of the better fighters are at PBC. He ain't gonna want Charlo. Charlo's gonna be way too big. But
he's called out Charlo before though.
He don't want Charlo, man. Come on.
I don't know. That's what I'm just going by what the man
Charlo
said.
would lay his ass out.
I think Charlo will.
I don't think Charlo's that. I think Crawford is a little bit better boxing.
And Charlo has been out.
Charlo is powerful, but he's
been out. And then what happened? He knocked their ass out. That's like
he has a pretty predictable style.
To outbox him, and then Tank knocked their ass out.
Well, not the first Tony Harrison fight. He got his eyeballs boxed out.
Yeah, but look how big Tony Harrison is with that jab. Crawford ain't got that physical attribute.
That's true. He's not as tall.
He doesn't have nearly the skill of Terrence Crawford either.
Man, dude.
Harrison's nice. And like Randy said, Harrison has got the dimensions too. But this is a lot of what happens with this fight, and is going to be determined based off of what happens with PBC and this network deal, right? Fox ain't giving them no more money. That Fox thing is dead. Showtime looks like it's going to get merged into Paramount Plus, maybe. That deal between PBC and Showtime is up the beginning of the year. And if Al Heyman still maintains contractual control over these guys, he's going to have to go to networks and present them with fights. And the networks are either going to say yes or no. He can't go to networks with Benavidez Uzcategui and expect ESPN or whoever to be like, oh, yeah, we'll give you money for that. That's not going to happen. He might be forced to make fights that he wouldn't normally make, but we'll see.
All right.
We gotta see what happens, man. There's a lot of rumors out there in these streets about Sampson and Louis DeCubas taking their guys and disassociating themselves from Al Heyman. If you look at the guys who have been fighting recently, they've been DeCubas guys and they've been Sampson guys. Morrell was a DeCubas guy. And the guy who's getting ready to fight this guy, Michelle, whoever, get ready to fight Frank Martin. He's also a Sampson guy. So, but Frank Martin is a PBC guy. So we'll see.
All right. With that said, we are going.
That's gonna be a good fight. That Frank Martin,
Michelle Rivera.
Yeah, that's gonna be a That's gonna be a good.
Yeah. I think Colbert would have been better, but I guess
I don't think it would have been better. I think
this is gonna be
Yeah,
the fight.
Frank Martin washes Colbert.
Frank Martin is, legitimate with that said, but once we kind of get into that, we'll talk about that. But before we head out, I want to make sure that you like and subscribe and comment on our page. We've been building up our pundit community at this point, and it's been a good thing. Y'all have good insight, and we do take your comments and we use that to try to improve upon the show. But with that said, we want to make sure that y'all tune in. We're going to have our shows coming out. We're going to move it up to Thursday, I believe. But make sure that you subscribe and you will get notifications. With that said, I'm Professor Nims. I'm signing off for my man, the Casual Rand.
Peace.
Boston Jarrett. Peace.
Coach Dave is not with us tonight, but we make up the pundits of pugilism, and we thank y'all for rocking with us tonight.